Yeah. You gotta work. You gotta work, grind, shine, it's mine. Gotta show everybody it's my time. Getting here, you gotta work, grind, shine. Never mind who talking down, cause they lying. Don't talk, you gotta work.
Let the conversation begin. This is Let's Talk with your host, Carl Lee.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Lee, and this is Let's Talk with Carl Lee. And I have my co-host here with me. And we've been talking a little bit off air even before we got on. And because the subject matter today is kind of interesting to me. The female basketball game has drawn an amazing amount of viewership. Like, people are like crazy over the women's. And to be honest, Hollis, I don't even know if I've heard anybody talking about the men's game.
Yeah.
It's clearly the women's game. And it's, I don't even know how you can judge the advancement or how quick the advancement, and maybe it's not quick. Maybe some people say, oh, it's taken a long time. Yeah. But I'm going to say within the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken off.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's happening, like, if you, like, because I can remember watching, like, Tennessee with Pat Summitt and, you know, the great Connecticut teams and everything like that. And I think what's happened is that you have the absolute best players on the court now, as opposed to the men's game, as opposed to a lot of other college athletics. Not only do you have the best players on the court, but there's also a continuity, right? Because those same players have been at those universities for 2 and 3 and 4 years. So I think when you have those two situations happening, in addition, and what we talked about prior to the show is that these are athletes with actual personalities. I just think sports, not just at college, I'm talking about professional. It's like the Russell, and I love Russell Wilson. I think he's going to do great at Steelers. But it's like the Russell Wilson-ization, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, of like just athletes where everybody's just this robot. You know your talking points, and there's just no personality left in sports. And I think that the women's game, particularly women's basketball, college basketball, has brought personality back to sports.
LSU and Iowa.
Yeah.
I think, and again, you're going to know more about this than I probably do, but those two teams playing each other, because of the two individual players on those teams, has created a must-see TV.
100%.
And there's even the conversation about talking trash.
Yep.
Whether or not, is that okay? Is that okay?
Well, let me ask you, because we're from two different generations. So how do you view that?
I like it.
Okay.
I actually, like, for myself, I'm not going to sit out. I'm not going to be out there, and I'm not going to talk a lot of smack, because the reality for what I was doing, I could end up being on the bad side of that.
Yeah.
Basketball kind of gives you a little bit more of a flexibility, so it's a little bit easier to do.
That's a good point, actually. Yes. That's a good point.
You can score a three.
I can score.
You can come back and score a three. So we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So football, you can die on the end of that trash talk. So I like it simply because of the fact that we don't see we're trying to look at these women basketball, these women athletes, and we want them to be like nice and kind and hug each other after the game. Yeah. No, they're putting their entire life on the line in these games. I mean, they put everything. I like that.
That's actually a good point.
They're putting everything that they have into these games. Yeah. They don't want to lose.
Yeah, and I'm just like, man, I'm telling you, I hate where sports have gone. It's just become so corporatized when you look at like professional sports. I mean, it's almost devoid of passion. And then you have somebody like maybe like a Draymond Green who's WWE. He takes it way too far. It just kind of
he's on that other end.
He does way too much.
Yes.
But just like far as the trash talking, far as these women clearly, Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, I'm sure they're not necessarily enemies per se, but they ain't buddies. They're not hanging out, which makes it good.
Right. Reese said, she was like, hey, we're fine off the court.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk trash to anybody on the court when we're playing.
Yeah, we need that in sports. And I just feel like they brought it back. Because if you look around, you may have like the Kelsey brothers in football. You may, like I said, Draymond Green, you could say. But outside of that, and you talk about professional baseball, there's just nothing there. We're just watching the games. I mean, college basketball has literally almost no personality right now.
Right.
It's great athletes, great basketball, great football, whatever. But it's just like I just love where women's sports is going.
Well, and they're going where I think men's sports where it was at one point.
Yeah.
And what happened, I think it went too far on the men's side. And so it's been chopped down and this is a penalty. This is get you kicked out of the game. And I get that. But man, the women's game.
I mean, because even just like, we talk about the players, and you could say, I mean, obviously we're talking about Angel Reese and Clark, but there's players from Stanford, from USC, from all over that have these same sort of traits as far as personality is concerned, but also the coaches, right?
Yeah.
We got Kim Mulkey, you got Don Staley, you got Oriema, you got coaches who have personalities too.
And they're showing them.
And they're showing
them. And I don't see why there's any reason that we should be anti that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we ought to be promoting that because they're not doing anything to me, okay? In my mind, they're not doing anything to hurt women's collegiate basketball.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting things, and I don't watch professional basketball on the women's side.
Yeah.
WNBA, I don't really watch it. The interesting component, though, is knowing these collegiate athletes that are going to go.
That's the part.
Now all of a sudden, what's happened is you're gonna get my attention in the WNBA.
Yeah.
To where any of these girls, and literally every team has at least 2 or 3 that easily could go to the WNBA and start right out the chute.
And that's what and it's funny you said that because that's what I was thinking this past week because I've literally this whole tournament I've watched a bunch of games as far as on the women's side. I mean, I watched a lot. There's not too many I've missed. And what I said to myself, I'm going to start watching WNBA ball because I got to see what this is about. I have to see if this is transferable, like far as the excitement that can be garnered because even the WNBA, like their season's not as long. So maybe that excitement that we're seeing now could be transferred to the professional level.
And when you start talking about the shooting capability of some of these females.
Yeah.
I mean, Caitlyn is like literally stepping across half court.
Yeah.
And just shooting a normal shot.
Yeah.
And nothing but net.
And I like how you said that because that's what my other point was going to be like. Not only are we talking about like the personalities and the showmanship.
They got the game.
They got game. And what I love too is like, all the guard play, but the big woman play. You got the big girl from UCLA, from South Carolina, Angel Reese. I mean, they playing the paint, back to the basket. The game is just, to me, it's almost a little bit more fluid, if that makes sense.
It's more. I don't know if I want to. You use fluid. I'm thinking it's more exciting. It's more exciting simply because, and I don't want to say it the wrong way. Like
I got you.
I've not seen a female or females being able to play ball as well, not as
like
good.
the skill set.
But the skill set, having the skill set, dribbling, passing. Like, it's not like they lack any skill set. Offense, defense, there's like they don't lack any of that.
Yeah. And again, just bringing it back to a conversation I know nobody wants to hear from us, but just even when we talk about transferring, I think this is maybe a case study in how that continuity is better for the game as opposed to all the movement. Because like when you look at a UConn, like on the men's side, they essentially have a new team that they didn't have last year. I mean, they don't have like just that continuity where you have that player who's going to be there for 2 and 3 years that we all know and we can get to know.
Right.
You know?
And everybody knows. Everybody likes to know all their players on their team, especially those starters. They want to be able to name them all off. Well, unfortunately, when you don't have that, and again, I've been asking the question about what is that culture? What is that thing about culture? How does that actually exist? How do you create it? To your point, when you've got 5 players who played together for 3 years at least, and they know every single piece about what you do, how we do it.
Yeah.
That's chemistry.
That's chemistry. That's continuity. That gives it a flow to the game. So when you have players coming in and out, far as just on the court lineup changes, you almost don't miss a beat. I was watching the game this weekend, and LSU had freshmen out there just balling. You know what I mean? That's
the other thing. When you come out on the court as a freshman, you ain't supposed to just blend in like ain't nothing.
Yeah.
You supposed to be the weak link.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But these girls are able to transition in there, and they know what to expect. These passes that they're getting, breaking to the basket, through the legs, behind the back, all that kind of stuff. You have to be able to anticipate that pass could come. If I've got the ball, you ain't got to worry about that pass coming. That ain't happening. Yeah. But you talk about Caitlyn. She got the ball, man. You
she's
don't know.
Much better passer than what I thought she was. She's actually, that's where I think she's going to shine at the professional level. I mean, she can shoot the shot and all that, but I think as a facilitator, she's going to be like that.
I think my thing is with that is I think she's the best overall player because she does everything. Like she ain't just going out there to score. And I'm not saying the top players are all just out there trying to score. They're playing D and they're blocking shots. They're doing all these kind of stuff, getting the rebounds. But I don't know if anybody. I mean, she's looking at breaking the assist record, all these kinds of things, and that speaks more volume to me than you just scoring. And even if your team, I'm going to make the case, even if your team wins, this player is doing everything possible that they can do. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Carl Lee. Visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk for more.
Sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Carl Lee at letstalk@promessage.com, Dale Cooper at dcooper@wvradio.com, or call 304-342-8131. Ask Carl a question or comment on current or previous episodes. Visit Let's Talk Carl Lee on Facebook. Like, rate, and subscribe from your podcast service to help more people find Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We wanted to take a quick break earlier in the show than we normally do. And in that break, we've got ourselves a new guest. He's not actually new to the show.
Yeah.
He's been on the show before, but he's back. Delegate Hornbuckle is in the building. And what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Coach?
Oh, bro, I'm just hanging on. Be careful with the coach. You got to be careful with the coach wearing.
Understood. Okay. Understood.
I'm doing good, man. We've been talking. We started the show out talking about women's basketball, the advancement of it, and obviously Iowa and
LSU.
LSU plays tonight, and we all know. I mean, and that's the other crazy thing.
Yes.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows what's happening in this game. They know the folks in this game.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to talk about just how advanced these players are. I mean, they're as good. Their shooting is as good as the men.
Because
pound for pound, it's probably better.
Because when we talk about
because
go ahead.
That was with women's basketball, it's crazy how it's evolved because they have always been, for the most part, more fundamentally sound, and so some of that skill work was always there to overcome when the game wasn't as athletically advanced. So when you talk about things like shooting, and I would say, I'm a connoisseur, consistently boxing out, those types of things.
Yeah.
They do that. Now, the majority of women have really, have evolved from an athletic standpoint to where, you can't tell too much difference between a men's and a women's game.
Yeah,
and so it's been really fun to just watch.
Because when I'm looking at it from far as the collegiate level, what do you think contributed to that? Because I think there's a continuity, there's a consistency where you have players actually staying for a period of time. But outside of that, and you are a basketball coach, coach AAU travel ball, what else are you seeing from that perspective?
I think it has been years of extraordinary personalities within the women's game that shined more of a spotlight on it and gave more young ladies sort of the wherewithal and the confidence to go out and do those things. And I think it's just been a byproduct of years after years of seeing someone that you can really, truly emulate yourself after and just put in more work and becoming, again, just more athletically aggressive.
I like that.
And they take, because I know when I played basketball, and I was just a defensive guy. I really wasn't a scorer. The coach didn't want me to shoot. But there was the reality of the idea of just being just winning, right? But you wanted to score. Everybody wanted to score. I think like these women in this game, in this day and age, that ain't all of it. They realize that they're scoring 40.
Yeah.
But they're also 15 assists, 3 steals, 5 steals, 8 steals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They like the whole concept of the whole game.
Yeah, I like that. The one girl from South Carolina, and her name escaped me, Swatkins. That's what it was called, the Watkins.
Are you talking about Juju?
Yeah, from South Carolina.
No, you're talking about from USC, from Southern California.
No, I'm talking about Watkins from South Carolina. She's defense.
Okay.
She had like 4 or 5 blocks and steals, and to your point, she was just doing it all.
And okay, so if you try to translate that into a player. You you could look at maybe a Dennis Rodman who's playing D, getting rebounds, diving on the floor. Yeah. That might and think about how special he was because of that. And you got girls doing that like it ain't nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just crazy. How do we think, like when you think about the evolution of the girls' game? To me, I think it's quick. Like I think it was like. Almost overnight. Yeah, it just seemed like it overnight. And did we miss some girls? I know there were some individual girls that were good, but is this particular group now the new face and the definition of women's basketball?
I mean, personally, I don't think so. I think, and again, it's not to hate, but I think and I'm just talking specifically college athletics, the men's game to me it's almost unwatched. It's not really good. It's not a good product on court. And I think because of that, we just our attention got diverted to the women's game because the women's games, they always balled. Like I said, even going back to Pat Summit and all them. So it's always been good. I just think our attention is there now. That's just my opinion.
But is it because of this group?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, I think the attention is there partly because of the robust personalities. that we
That-
gravitate
I give
towards.
you that.
That part of it was not there, and I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for just general equity in society. That they are no different than us, other than they're a woman, and so I think all good things come from it, and it's been very exciting to watch.
That we hit on that a little bit too earlier about the trash talking.
Yeah.
that was
I love
something.
it.
That was something that girls. They don't do that in girls sports. They happy and all that kind of stuff. And to watch them now,
But the thing is, they've always done it.
I guess
we just didn't watch.
We just didn't
before.
watch it.
We didn't
You're
watch.
right.
We didn't watch.
I clearly can confess I didn't watch.
And the personalities mean now that there's more money in it.
Yeah.
More money means more media. All right, so that translates to the viewer.
Facts.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen with the WNBA? Because they're less than the NIL money.
It is. So I think it will hopefully expedite it.
This year?
But no. From a business standpoint, it just can't because we will get there, but it has to be a point to where 60% of their games are sold out, right? Because that's how those owners are going to earn their bottom line to be able to have that revenue split, right? And so, but as this game becomes more popular across all genres of folks, then I think you will slowly but surely, and again, I hope it's expedited, but it will at some point, I think, have more money infused into the women's game.
But I say this, the WNBA, they have to let the personalities in. You cannot try to corporatize this. To me, like the NBA. The NBA, as far as the regular season, again, NBA playoffs championship is the best basketball in the world, the best to watch. But I'm just saying, as far as the year standpoint, they've just gotten all the personality out of it. It's become the Euro League essentially. And I'm saying the WNBA don't follow the NBA's path, what they're doing now. Tread your own way and let the personalities in.
Can you? Okay, but let me ask both of you this question. When you play, I don't know what the total number of games that they play. But if you're playing 60, 70 games.
You talking about NBA?
NBA.
82.
82. You're playing 82 games. Man, I can't show you that same thing for every game.
I don't know, bro. Back in the day, it seemed like maybe I was a kid, but it seemed like Jordan and them, it was every game.
But I and again, I don't know if the number of games went up. If they've raised the number of games, but I just don't know how you can sustain that same drive, that same energy every game. We played 16 games. Okay, we played 16 games, and a coach would tell you at any given time after a loss that we just wasn't up. We just got caught flat. This is one of those games we were flat. You can't be flat in college basketball, women's basketball.
That's
you can't
true.
be
That's
flat.
A good point. That's a good
So
point.
I'm just trying to figure out how do you keep that energy constantly?
Well, I mean, also too that season's a lot shorter. For one, I mean, the college season is going to probably span anywhere in between 28 to 36 games. On average, depending on how far you go, if you compete in your conference tournaments or if you get to compete in some type of extra tournament, i.e. NCAA or NIT. But also I think there's the element of they're still in school. And so that excitement of beating up on a rival, then getting to go back to campus that night, you know what that means. All right. And then
Everybody knows what that means.
We know what that means. And then you get to go, to the cafeteria the next day as big woman or big man on campus. It's a whole different environment. And yes, you're getting paid for it, but I think it just creates that energy, and it's just a different type of product.
I'd agree with that. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with it. I just know, from trying to be ready for every game, and when you come off of one of those games that almost went to overtime, you barely won it. You somebody knocked down the last shot. and you take that deep breath after the game is over, and then you right back on the court in a couple days.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I think also with being a professional, it's just like us. There's going to be times where you have an off day.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where you have an off day,
and
unless you just like didn't want to study or take a test, when you're going to school, like you want to go back to the classroom. I don't care what anybody says, right? It's just a totally different thing. And some people obviously are getting paid right now, but by and large, it's not your job, and it's purely about the excitement, going to impress your fellow classmates and things of that nature. Whereas again, once you get a contract, it might suck that you lost, but hey, I'll get up and do this in a couple of days and cash that check, and I'll be okay.
Yeah, and let's be clear. When we talk about NIL, everybody ain't getting paid.
No,
it's only a select few that's really, really getting the bag. Everybody else is just scraping by.
Do you think on let's take, what are we down to, 4, 6?
Eight teams.
Eight teams. We're down to 8 teams.
Mm-hmm.
8 teams where?
In women's.
In women's
it's
sport.
the Elite 8, right? Or
Well, yes. So the other 2 won yesterday, which was North Carolina State and South Carolina.
Yeah, it's Elite 8.
Then tonight we got UConn and USC, and then we got LSU versus Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay, so those 5 starters on each one of those teams, I'm gonna make the case, are getting something.
Yeah, they getting something, but when I say
they're
that,
probably not getting.
Yeah, I don't mean they getting, all of them ain't getting hundreds of thousands and millions.
But I would say a bag is relative, though.
A bag is relative.
It's because if I go on campus and they give me a vehicle, my parents get to come to all my games, and let's just say I get $25,000.
Yeah.
At 20 years old, that's a bag.
That's a bag. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
And or like even a house, so that your parents can come
For sure.
and live with you, or come and stay as long as they want right at your house. That's important. That matters. So all right, we're going to take another quick break here, and we'll be back in just a second.
Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Carl Lee. Visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk for more.
Sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Carl Lee at letstalk@promessage.com, Dale Cooper at dcooper@wvradio.com, or call 304-342-8131. Ask Carl a question or comment on current or previous episodes. Visit Let's Talk Carl Lee on Facebook. Like, rate, and subscribe from your podcast service to help more people find Let's Talk with Carl Lee. Now, back to the conversation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Lee, and I got 2 delegates with me, Delegate Hornbuckle and Delegate Hollis. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna jump into something that I know is a really kind of difficult subject.
Yeah.
A testy subject. But for me, I'm okay with it, just simply for the fact that, I think where I want it, where I'm meaning it to go, it's likely that we can get there. Okay. Yeah. So one of my main concerns about the conversation going on about Crisppi's, which everybody knows is in some form or fashion attached to Randy Moss.
Yeah. Restaurant in Huntington, West Virginia.
Yes. And I think most people in Huntington has probably either tried to go to get something to eat or decided they weren't interested in it. People have come from out of town, out of state, just to go with the maybe even with the potential of maybe seeing Randy there.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And so I'm gonna put a period there, and I'm gonna go somewhere else. I've said this multiple times on the show and on other shows. One of the hardest things that I deal with in my own mindset is West Virginia and they're superstar athletes. Like I've struggled with the idea of why we always find ourselves providing the negative. We literally, in my mind, it feels like we search for the negative for the reason not to like that person. Now, we cheered for him when he was in high school. We cheered for him when he was in college, or her.
Yeah. If they went to a West Virginia school.
Yeah, exactly. If they stayed in state, we gonna cheer for them.
Yeah. But
now, if they were to go to Penn State, perfect example. Kurt Warner, a Pineville native, a West Virginia native, right? He don't even it's hard to get him to come back to do anything just because of how he was treated, because he went where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so it's confusing to me that we can't find a way to celebrate. And I'm older than both of y'all two. I can remember even just Jerry West's name, and people talk about he never came back, he never done this, da 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 da. And then the perfect example, because I don't even think it's a color thing. I think it's just the reality of sometimes we lose sight of that special, like Jason Williams.
Yeah.
He I know he comes back and does some things.
Yeah, he does.
He comes back and does some things. But wouldn't you like to think that how great he was? Why wouldn't he be here doing all kinds of stuff?
Yeah. And to the
why
point,
is he not doing somebody's commercial?
And,
you know what I'm saying?
And outside of, what's going on, and we'll touch the Crisppi situation, but I know Moss for years he would come back and he would hold a camp and he would do the signing of autographs. So probably I would say his whole tenure in the league, you did the same thing and would come back and host camps and different things of that nature. So I know he was present here. And far as the restaurant situation, again, I think people may automatically attach it to whatever's going on down there, whether it be right or wrong with him, but it may not necessarily have anything to do with him.
Right, because you got to remember, and I know when I went down, he brought the food to me. That ain't his job.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
He's helping out with his investment.
Yes.
And some people have lost sight, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, that is an investment opportunity for him. Those people are the owners and co-founders.
Right.
Period, point blank.
And see, and I didn't really know that until I heard them say that. I really did.
Oh, yeah. They're the owners and the co-founders. So, again, regardless of somebody loves it, hates it, indifferent, that honestly shouldn't have any attachment to Randy in my eyes, because I know plenty of angel investors who put into local businesses, and they might not show up on the bottom line, or they might not be there, and I guess they're attached to it, but they're also not running it, right? And so I don't even know if we're applying, the same standard in this situation.
But I think, too, to your point, when you, regardless of whatever that person plays, their role is in this bigger organization, I have to be conscious that if I represent the organization that you also represent, that I'm in fact representing you, because obviously you ran him off, you're a Hall of Famer, you're a superstar, or you Sean Delegate and you are my minority chair person. So how I conduct myself, particularly in the public, I have to be conscious of that, because I'm not just representing me.
I agree.
Or if I'm not just representing my business, but I'm also representing this legacy, this legend.
That's
you see what I'm saying?
And that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting, because when we were talking, even before we got into this,
some people don't know the difference. Some people just, Randy Moss owns it. He's messing up. They would think that. You know what I mean?
And that makes the point to, and I think that you're making the point that conversation or that interview, being part of that podcast, that was I think that, I don't know if that was necessarily the way that you want to go, just because I'm not sure if, because again, people are thinking Randy's sitting on the top of this.
Yeah.
And
he's sitting in it.
He's sitting somewhere in it.
Yeah.
And so now this becomes an argument about Randy, about him versus what's happening at the restaurant.
Exactly. And the unfortunate thing is, this is at the root of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is at the root of it all. And I have noticed probably over, I would say, the span of the last 5 to 8 years, everyone thinks that they're a reality TV star.
Yes.
Because everybody has Facebook and all these social media platforms, and their problems and their gripes should be broadcast all over the place, because people literally have in their mind, because of phones, that they are a star. And so, unfortunately, they were not thinking, provided they have one, we're not thinking with their business cap. They just wanted to gripe and be the star of the day.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's helpful to their quest and running an efficient practice in a business. And so they're going to have to live with that. And, I believe that everybody gets second chances, but they're going to have to figure it out real soon, or they're going to be without.
And I'll say this for my part, like, I haven't had the chance to, I think when I went down there, it was just, the restaurant was just opening. So I haven't had the chance to go in there. And I'm not, casting dispersions. I don't know as far as who's right and who's wrong in this situation as an outsider.
I don't know if anybody really does.
I don't know who's right and wrong. And I'm not saying that, but I think that, again, if you're in a leadership position, but more importantly to our conversation, if you're representing somebody, if I'm representing somebody, I have to be conscious of how I react or how I respond to things that are going on, whether I'm right or they're wrong, or I'm wrong and they're right. So I think that's sort of the bigger lesson here.
And I'll give this as somewhat of an analogy. Like if I try to call Randy and he don't answer, but I'm not gonna come back on the show and say try to call Randy, he ain't answer.
Yeah.
But he has that opportunity or that choice to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And whether we don't hang out. If we happen to be in the same spot, we might hang out. We might do that. I would say that we're cool. We're good. I love him to death. I love everything about everything that he's overcome to get to where he is.
Yeah.
It bothers me. It bothers me that everybody's like, and again, I hate to bring this up, but there's no way I can't. Like even the ketchup issue. Okay? Even the ketchup issue. Does anybody really believe that Randy's sitting there saying, no, we don't want no ketchup?
I hope people don't. I hope people don't.
I would hope that.
Yes. I don't think that's a Randy thing.
It's not.
It's not, yeah.
I'm thinking what Randy has done, which nobody really, I won't say nobody, but a lot of people don't see it. He invested in something.
Yes.
In Huntington, hoping it would do well.
Yeah.
And again, I had the food, and I'm not being prejudiced. I like the food.
Yeah, I heard it was good.
I like the food. Everything that I had was good. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard anybody necessarily say anything I've not heard anybody say anything negative about the food per se. I've heard the ketchup thing. I heard, just all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I don't know if you can say, and I don't know any restaurant that's good at everything.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be good at everything. But I think when you put yourself in this kind of situation, it puts him in a situation. You're bringing him to the forefront, and now people who don't care for him or don't know him, now they thinking, well, I ain't going there.
Or just don't understand business. I think that, to your point, Delegate Hornbuckle, sometimes if we're famous or we have a big name, sort of like what Trump does. Trump doesn't own all these businesses. What he does is lend his name here, there. Right? So it could be a situation where I lend my name, I lend my resources, I lend my connections. So to your point, it's not as though he's in there, cooking chicken sandwiches. You know what I mean?
or people. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But it's also like this. I'm sitting here thinking as we're discussing this, it's almost if, let's say, I hypothetically bought NVIDIA stock. All right. So technically, if I buy stock, I technically have ownership in it.
Right.
Right. But I'm not there making the day-to-day decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
While their ledger is going up or down. And again, I own stock in that company, and I'm buying it because I hope there's a return on an investment.
Right.
But that also doesn't mean, again, that I'm there day to day making those decisions and driving that business. And so we just got to be really careful in how we assess things.
And see,
And I'll let you go just quickly, because I was actually listening to something last night, and what he was talking about, it was kind of sort of relating to something else, but they were talking about kids not understanding that when you walk out into the world, you represent not only yourself, but you represent your family, you represent your school, you represent more than just yourself when I am doing things, particularly if I'm if I have any sort of microphone, if I have any sort of light on me, we're delegates, we represent our districts. So not to say that you have to be, soft-shouldered, or you have to, be extraordinarily careful, but I have to be careful in that I represent myself and the people that I represent correctly.
yes, and let me make sure that everybody understands that piece of that. That is anybody who would represent Randy Moss. When I talk about legends building legends, I don't, to me, it was an honor for him to come and do a show with me and sit down and have a conversation. So if you're going to sit here and then try to make a case that he didn't do this, he don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
In all reality, there's a whole lot of folks who have been great athletes in West Virginia who haven't done anything in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And at least he tried to put his dollar into something here in West Virginia. And I can remember even before that happened, how people were talking about that. He ought to do something here. He ought to come back and do something here. Well, when you do that, when you try to help somebody else out, which I'm assuming that's pretty much how this situation took place, but again, speculating, he helped invest in this place with the folks who are running it. Does that not count?
But and I would also, to your point, I would also say, for the people, for the public, I believe that maybe there ought to be some grace there. To Delegate Hornbuckle's point, sometimes we get our phone and we want to make skits and we want to make memes about everything. Well, we can maybe just handle some of those complaints in privately. Like, we don't, just the same way you don't want the owners of this restaurant representing Moss incorrectly, we as the public, we as the fans, we as home team don't want to represent him incorrectly as well in this endeavor.
What should have happened, if anything? If anybody should have said something, should anybody have said something, or should this have been something that the three of them just had a discussion and maybe they did,
yeah,
and they decided that they were going to say whatever they wanted to say, and maybe Randy okayed that. That's a possibility.
No way.
I don't know about
no way.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Nah.
I'm just saying. And I agree. But I'll just make the case that I'm just making the case that I don't factually know that.
Yes.
But I would never. I don't think there's any way that I could find myself ever saying anything negative about somebody who invested in me. I don't care what Randy does ever again with me. He did something with me.
But who's I don't think. But the thing is, I don't know if anybody's necessarily speaking negatively on Randy. I don't know if I've heard that per se.
I don't think they're saying anything negative about him, but I think there's just a misconception in how much he's involved, and because it's the old adage of heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah, you know that.
And so I do, and so he is the figurehead, like it, love it, or hate it, and so he's just going to catch the flack.
Yeah, okay.
And again, I think it also comes from a place from some ignorance of just understanding the business structure and how it flows and how it works. But hey, man, it is what it is, and
yeah.
I'm just, I'm hoping, in the long run of this, if there is such a thing as a long run going forward, that everybody understands the role and what maybe what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah. And to that point, and I say I don't want to take it here, and I'm not going to take it there. But there's a reason why when these big corporations, when they get in trouble, when they find themselves in controversy, it's a reason why they issue written statements prepared by attorneys or legal counsel.
Because they got to say the right thing.
Point blank.
yes,
They got to say the right thing.
It's a reason why they do that.
correct.
And I'm gonna give him the benefit, and I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt per se, but on the benefit of the doubt, what got you so mad to make you like, okay, because you went to a podcast to do this, to say these things. You came on to do that. Was there not somewhere in there you were thinking like, no, maybe we shouldn't go there?
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we're also assuming that there's that thought there, right? Which we would think is a reasonable thought, but if you've never had to encounter something like that, that might not be a reasonable thought to you. You might just say whatever's on your mind and forget that you are in a public space, and it was absent of you that you're actually attacking your potential customers, which is the wildest thing I've ever seen and heard of, by the way.
Yeah,
was it?
Because listen, it's just a way to go about things at the end of the day.
Did it seem angry to you?
It seemed like it just seemed like there's something else that's going on, and I guess it's pressure bust pipes.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you the better word. So what you're saying is there's pressure going on in the restaurant, and their conversation on the podcast was from the pressure in which they're feeling in the restaurant and or from the public.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll just simply say, look, I worked customer service, my first job out of college, and the mantra was like, we often hear the customer's always right. Well, that's incorrect. Mm-hmm. The customer is not always right, but the customer is the customer. I'll leave it there.
And just in case you missed that,
the
customer is the customer.
Yeah.
Which in turn means that's who you got to treat. You got to treat that person in a way to make them want to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, they're not always right. The customer isn't always right, and that's what you have attorneys and lawyers for, and public relations and different things of that nature. That's who you have these teams for, is to sort of combat these sort of things.
Help you massage the situation.
And if there is a negative or untrue Yelp review, you have a team that's going to take care of that. In addition, my thing is, like, again, regardless of what's ever going on, I'm never going to represent you in a negative light. I'm never going to represent you in a negative way or pitch you in a position where you have to take up for me for something I just said flagrantly.
I just think when I there would be, like, for me, there'd be no reason why I could ever speak negative toward Randy, not because it's Randy Moss, but because of the Randy that I know.
Yeah.
Okay? Just the Randy that I know. And he may not do any and everything that I want him to do or ask him to do. But what I understand is everything here in West Virginia is not the most important thing to him.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
And he's got things bigger
And you're talking about from the customer standpoint.
Yes,
just to be clear.
yes, from the customer. Like he doesn't have time to deal with every specific customer issue. He doesn't have time to respond to this podcast.
And again, that's not his job neither.
It's not his job. It's not. He doesn't have any time to respond to this. He doesn't have any respond to the one that happened in Huntington. And yet, the scary thing about it is we're talking about him. And that's to me, that's the bad thing about the relevance of his name. And anybody and everybody has an opportunity to go after that. And I think that's a shameful situation to have to live in. When anytime something that you're around, anything that you participate in, you put your name on it, and it goes left or right for whatever the reason.
But I feel you on that, but that's just part of the game too. That's you gonna catch the shrapnel if you in the seat. The fact of the matter is, what I'm looking at is the people who are supposed to be insulating me. Like, take care of that. So I don't catch as much. I'm gonna catch, like you said, if you the owner or the projected owner in any business, you're gonna catch some heat, and that's cool. But take care those people who are playing the front, take care of that, so it don't hit me as hard.
You know what I call them?
Yeah.
Unforced turnovers.
I like that.
Well, unforced turnovers.
Yeah, right, don't do me like that.
And to your point, and to that name, to me, that's what that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, people are faltering and trying to get it up off of them.
Yeah.
To get it away from them, and in the so if it's not me, then it's got to be y'all. Yeah. So if the show's bad, it ain't me, it's y'all.
Yeah, and the thing is, and here's the thing too, because I know that we're probably gonna get a little of that strapping.
We're gonna get some of that.
But here's the thing though. You made it public, not necessarily us, and I don't think none of us are talking specifically who's right and wrong as far as in the daily business. I don't know that. I'm not talking about that. Because he could be 100% right, they could be 100% wrong, whatever. But I think that, again, when you open the door, you're opening the door for a lot to come in, and you got to be conscious of that when you're in the seat.
You gotta be careful when you're talking about. If you're going to talk about something that includes delegates, right? I'd have to be awfully careful in having that discussion out in the public and saying, whatever I think, about the two of you all, and whatever we're doing, they don't come, that ain't got nothing to do with it. I think you got to be really careful with that. And with somebody who's already had, and I feel bad in saying this, and it even kind of chokes me up a little bit, because how much does this brother have to take?
Yeah.
How many
Here
times?
Too, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
How much stuff? You can't put anything else on him.
Yeah.
There ain't no reason to put anything else on him. Here's a brother who has just been great he's been great and has put this state on the map. He's the best thing. You talk about him being the best, if not the best athlete. I think he's the best athlete.
Clear.
Ever.
That's
now you can question.
You said best athlete ever, like all time?
Yeah.
You think so?
You talking about
that's
from
a good day?
No, he's talking about from the state.
No, he said best from the state. Oh, okay.
And
I said that's a good show.
Let me say this:
show.
if you want to,
that's a good show.
I'm gonna make him as good an athlete as anybody.
He top 10. Definitely for all time.
All time, easily.
He's the greatest West Virginia body.
There ain't nothing.
That's not even close.
Ain't nobody playing and doing the things that he's doing. But if you want to go nationally,
he up there, man.
He's him. He's him.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out who's 9, Who's 8? Who's 7? Who's 6? Like, I'm just trying to
listen. My cousin was in town from D.C. a few weeks ago for a family funeral, and we got to talking at my Aunt Janetta's house, his mom, and I didn't even know about the whole track deal where the coach basically just had him run track in a meet at Marshall, and he won a championship.
Yeah.
At Marshall?
Just getting out there.
I didn't know that.
Hand me a jersey. I'm going to go beat everybody.
I didn't know that.
He just went
I thought you were talking about joining high school. I knew about that.
At Marshall.
Wow.
He won the Southern Conference or whatever. He did something nutty like that. Like literally like
I think it was 100, 200.
It was something ridiculous. You could go right now. He went out
I didn't
there.
know that.
He
just went out.
He might have practiced for maybe like a week, like messing around on Randy time, and went out there and championship.
So 2-sport athlete at Marshall. Wow.
Easy.
I didn't know that.
And could have been basketball. Like he could have played basketball.
He could have played basketball.
And I heard they tried to get him out there on the baseball diamond.
Yeah, he was.
I heard
I think
that.
he played in high school. He was real.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But he legit went out there with minimal training or anything and went out there and beat up on everybody on that track.
That's wild. That's wild. I didn't know that one.
I mean, when you
man, just be careful with people's names.
yeah,
man.
and
Come on, man.
Let's
Be
just
careful
make
with
the
people's
case.
names,
Let's just
man.
make the case that regardless of
I'm just playing.
anything that Randy Moss is a part of,
Yeah.
there's no reason to be negative because he ain't trying. If he's got his name on it, he ain't trying to be negative. He's trying to help.
He's trying to help you.
He's trying to help, and we need to do better with those type of athletes. We need to be better with those kind of people because here's a brother. At the end of the day, I mean, come on, how much does he need to go through?
Yeah, and look, man, shout out to Crispers. It's Crispers or Crispies?
Crispies.
Next time I'm in Huntington, I'm definitely stopping through. So shout out to him. I hope they, like I said, I hope they prosper. I hope they, I hope all this can just get behind them. But I would just say, man, let's just protect each other like at all costs. You know what I mean? And let's just handle things like professional. Like I said, Delegate Hornbuckle, Coach Lee, sometimes it ain't always our fault. But sometimes if you're in a position, you got to fall on the sword. And you got to handle business.
That's how it
and
goes.
you got to move on to the next day.
I just don't. My only problem is I Randy's been falling on the sword.
Well, I ain't talking about Randy.
Oh, okay.
I ain't talking about Randy.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the owners. Randy ain't got nothing. From my perspective, he really ain't got nothing to do with this.
Right.
I mean, I understand.
Me too.
Yeah. So,
Man.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed that conversation, and we'll figure out once we watch we'll read all the comments and see what side you're on. But we'll be right back again next week on Let's Talk to Carl Lee. Delegates, I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
All righty.
Thank you.
The opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of WVRC Media, its management, employees, or sponsors. Follow us on Facebook at Let's Talk Carl Lee. Visit WCHSnetwork.com/Let's Talk for more.